my video actually talking. Right now, I got stuff to do. Excuse me. Hey, what's up? Six K James, what's up, man? In about a minute and a half, at the 5 minute mark of my video, I'm gonna start talking about Clemson versus South Carolina, as far as matchups, who I think has the advantage, all that stuff, and who I think wins the game. So stay tuned. I'm just waiting for more people to come up. That's all. Yep, 40 seconds. Oh, dude, I got my other glasses on. Thanks for the like. I appreciate that. All right, so as we all know, this is rivalry week in college football, and probably the most exciting week of any year in college football. Um, it's funny for this game in particular. I've always picked a loser to win the game, going back to 2021 when Clemson played South Carolina back then. I had picked South Carolina. 2022, same thing. I picked Clemson to win. Last year, picked South Carolina. This year, it's just odd. What I hate this, I feel like this pick for me is almost cursed because a loser, the one that I always pick loses the game. So in that case, I'm still gonna disregard that. Who do I think has the advantage? I think I gotta give it to South Carolina. They've had the tougher schedule. They played tougher teams and lost those games. These guys could easily be 9-2 right now had it not been for that LSU game with all the referees and helping out LSU. Because we all see what LSU turned out to be. A 6-win team, 7-win team at best. And South Carolina, a lot of people didn't believe in them because at the start of the year, they were a young team. And you know what I mean? They were a young team. Usually a young team doesn't have the success that they're having. But I said even before the season started that Shane Beamer was a really good coach. South Carolina's in a way better place now than what they were before he got there. This is his fourth year. This is his third winning season. Think about it. His first year, 7 games, won the Mayo Bowl. Second year, knocked off top 5 Tennessee, knocked off a top 10 Clemson team at their house, by the way, just like it is this year, and finished the season with 9 wins, with a bowl game loss to Notre Dame. Last year they went 5-7, but they also had a lot of injuries, and that clearly hurt them a lot. This year, a chance to win 10 games. Yeah, they're 8-3 right now. Lenore Zellers, he's a really good quarterback. I like Rocket Sanders too, the running back that they have. He's a really, really good player. South Carolina is very big and physical up front. They're really tough in the lines of scrimmage. And I know I say that about a lot of football teams, but I emphasize them a lot because they're more of a running team than anything else. Their defense is really strong up front too. Their defensive line has given everyone fits, except Ole Miss for some reason with that home game. But they do hold wins over big-name programs like Oklahoma, Texas A&M. They did beat Vanderbilt, who's been pretty good this year. They got 8 wins, man, with only 3 losses. So that's pretty good. And they did beat Missouri at some point this year, too. Missouri was ranked at the time when they beat them. And even though they're still ranked now, you know what I mean. But South Carolina's had a really good year. If they beat Clemson, I doubt they'll make it to the playoffs just because of the teams that are ahead of them and the resumes against them that other teams have. But still, a chance to win 10 games, that's pretty darn good. I think it'll go down to who's tougher in the line of scrimmage in this game. Because Clemson's a pretty good team, too. Clemson did get blown up by Georgia, but Georgia has beaten up a lot of teams. And right after that game on my channel, all right, take care, man. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate that. When they got blown up by Georgia, even then I said, I don't think this game is an accurate representation in terms of what Clemson is and can be this year. Because after the Georgia game, everybody else was pretty beatable. And I said that. They got a chance to win 10, 11 games, because I don't think they'll make it to the ACC title game just because Miami versus Syracuse. But if they did, it's possible they beat SMU. I don't know. I think SMU's a really good team this year. But as far as this game goes, I think South Carolina is the better team. I think they're the more physical team. And I know it's at Clemson. I see Clemson is favored by like 2 or 3 points or whatever the point spread is. I still think South Carolina should win that game. And again, it goes down to who wins the line of scrimmage more, who's less likely to make mistakes, whose defense is more likely to win the game for them. And even though I think Clemson's defense is better, 2 years ago when they played this same game, it was also in Death Valley. And Clemson was the better team. Still lost the game. Turnovers, defense gave out on them late. And when you look at the Louisville game, who, by the way, was also a home game that they lost, they got blown out in that game. The defense got pushed around. Louisville was able to run the football really well and score some points and end up blowing that game out of the way. I think the score was misleading, by the way. They struggled at Pittsburgh too. In other words, I just think this game has too many no-nos that go against Clemson. And South Carolina's hot right now. They've won 5 games in a row. They've been really impressive. Really, they could easily be 10-1. Because they're 8-3. That LSU loss was very competitive. There was a lot of stuff that went on in that game that I didn't agree with. And even the Alabama game, at Alabama, it was a very winnable game. We all know and I know Alabama's struggling a lot this year, but still, to win over Alabama, anybody would love that, right? Go figure. So, South Carolina has a chance to win double digits this year for the first time since Steve Spurrier was there. So that's really impressive. Shane Beamer, man, he has impressed me. I love Dabo Swinney. I got a lot of respect for the winningest ACC coach of all time. But, Clemson has, and again, it's the same thing with Clemson as it's been the last several years. They're really good, but they're not elite anymore. Dabo Swinney does not like to use the transfer portal. And again, look, I am not saying he's wrong for not using it at all, for not relying on it. Obviously, we've seen with Florida State, with Mike Norvell, for example, all he does is use the transfer portal. He goes out and recruits a lot of good players, right? But then he doesn't, he just doesn't build his program around that. I like Dabo Swinney's approach. I just think he should use it a little bit more in terms of another quarterback, just in case Klubnik wasn't working out for him, just for more depth and just to have more variety. If that makes sense. Again, I'm not a college football expert. I'm not even an analyst. I'm just doing this for fun. And that's why I'm not very famous right now. But I enjoy doing it. And I just think Dabo should be using that more to get more talent. Because nowadays with the NIL stuff going on, you got those same players, those same wide receivers and quarterbacks that were going to Clemson at one point. They're going elsewhere. And Clemson's not what they were 4, 5, 6 years ago. So, again, they're very good, but they're not winning a national championship. Georgia already proved that. And unfortunately, even though Georgia did it, there's probably other teams that can do the same. So I have to go with South Carolina. It might even get ugly. Louisville was another running team. Georgia is mostly a running team if they don't have Carson Beck throwing really good because they run the football really well too. And Clemson couldn't handle either one of those teams when they ran the football. So, especially late in the games when the defense got tired. I expect South Carolina to have the same mentality. But South Carolina is a really good football team. And again, it's a shame that they have the Alabama and LSU losses. That really hurts them, Close competitive losses that really went against them. Really, that Ole Miss game was really the only convincing game that I see that they lost, and there's no argument about. But I'm really happy with South Carolina. And again, I just think the running game will be too much for 4 quarters. And I don't see South Carolina making as many mistakes as Clemson's offense doing it. Cade Klubnik, shout out to him. He has had a much better season than he did last year. And you can see it last year. He was the potential for him to be great was there as it is now. He's playing really good this year, but he still has interceptions every now and then. He still fumbles sometimes. And clearly that's just who he is. He's a guy that can win games, but he can cost you a game every now and then. Now, again, this is a better team than what it was last year, and the defense is still playing really good, but I feel like the defense has kind of dropped off a little bit, And again, Dabo does not like the transfer portal. He doesn't like I'm pretty sure he's not for players getting paid as much. I think he'd rather, because he's more of an old school guy, and as we can see, it's clearly hurting Clemson. So, yeah, I got to go with South Carolina. I think they're the better team. I think they're the more physical team. They're the team that's going to make the least amount of mistakes. And really, that home field advantage in this case, I don't think it matters. Simply because of the game they had 2 years ago. Again, Clemson was better than South Carolina 2 years ago. But South Carolina still found a way to play a really good game. And I say really good, not a perfect game, because they had turnovers too, and still came back to beat them over there. So it doesn't really matter. Now, in my opinion, this is the best team South Carolina's had in a long time. Clemson's is still less than what they were 2 years ago. I think South Carolina beats them convincingly. I think the running game will be too much. Rocket Sanders, they won't be able to stop him. I like Phil Maffa. Maffa's a good player. He's a really good running back. He's strong. He's hard to tackle at times, but he's not what Will Shipley was last year. He's not Travis Etienne. And it's like they're missing some of those players that they used to have back in the day. So, unfortunately, I have to go with I just have to go with South Carolina, and I'm a Shane Beamer fan, so it really doesn't hurt me to pick like that because also I like Florida State and Clemson keeps whooping up on them, so I'm a little happy to see Clemson lose. So there you have it. I got South Carolina winning 31 to. Can they? Yeah, I think they can. I think they will. They'll put up 30 points or more. Clemson might put up 20 points and make it a little bit close, but I just think South Carolina's in a better place than Clemson is right now. Again, they've won so many games in a row. They've won 5 games. Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, excuse me, Missouri, teams that they beat that were ranked at the time. They got robbed when they lost to LSU, and they had a close game at Alabama. And by the way, Alabama doesn't lose at home. That might change their Saturday, but yeah, that's just my opinion. How about you guys? Do you guys have any thoughts on that? Do you guys agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Do you think I'm an idiot for making that pick? Do you think I'm a genius? Do you think that game is probably not competitive at all? Maybe you think Clemson somehow understands, hey, they've owned South Carolina in the last decade plus, so they should beat South Carolina without any issues. What do you guys think about it? Even though I got nobody left now. But I'm going to leave this video going longer just so I can see if I have more engagement. And the reason why I've been breathing so hard is I've been doing some push-ups lately in between doing the video and just talking. So that's what I'm about to do. I do see somebody popped up. But I have South Carolina beating Clemson. That's just my prediction. And I think they'll cover the spread. So I think South Carolina wins the turnover battle. I think they run the football better. And I think their defense equals, if not surpasses, the intensity that Clemson's defense can bring. And I think the only reason this game might be a little closer than it should be is because it's at Death Valley and it is a tough place to play. So, I mean, think about it. The last 2 years, they've been beat only 3 times at home in the last 8 or 9 years. Florida State beat them last year. Louisville beat them this year. That's it. And Pittsburgh beat them one time in 2016. So South Carolina's already done it once with a lesser team than what they have now. They should do it this year. And they shouldn't really, and I think they shouldn't have to come from behind. This game might look a lot like the Texas A&M win that they had about a month ago. Maybe a little bit more competitive because it's a rivalry. And I think Dabo's a better coach than Mike Elko is right now overall in terms of experience and knowledge. So he might have some ways and strategies to keep that game closer than Mike Elko did at the time. So, yeah, those are my final thoughts on that game. I'm going to leave this open a little bit longer. I'm going to go back and do some more push-ups, come back, see if anybody wants to talk about this game, and then after I'll stop at 20 minutes if I don't get any engagement or anything whatsoever. So, yeah, and then I'll talk about – who should I talk about next? I'm thinking about Tennessee and Vanderbilt. I think that game will be interesting this year just because Vanderbilt's having the best year they've had ever. And even though Tennessee's having a successful year, it's been kind of a down year too. They lost to Arkansas. Then they get beat by 2 touchdowns by Georgia. And, it's kind of a letdown because they can't beat Georgia, even though 2 other teams whipped them and they couldn't do it. So it is what it is. Yeah, I did brush my hair. My hat messes up my hair pretty easily. Look at all that hair. I feel like I'm going bald in the back of my head because the back of my head, it's real thin right here. That's just my opinion. It's nice to have the week off. That way I can do this more. Hello. Who do you think wins, South Carolina or Clemson? Bye-bye. All right, I'll see y'all later. Peace.